Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're coming to you every week to show you the different things that point to the coming of the Lord, specifically what happens right after the rapture of the church, because the rapture is signless, but the second coming has many signs. You know, the Ezekiel 38 war is when Russia comes down on Israel and God intervenes and protects Israel. See, in this dispensation, God didn't intervene. He left the authority up to the church. So we look at all these things so that we can tell how close we are. The thought pattern has been, well, you can't tell when the Lord's coming back. Actually, you can if you can read. Just like the signs on the freeway tell you if you're going from Oklahoma City to Tulsa, you got 90 miles, the next sign says 80, next sign says 50. The signs bring you peace because you know you're getting toward your destination. Well, we have so many signs of the second coming, and the consensus has been you can't tell. Well, absolutely you can, and there's more verses written about it than anything in the Bible. Why would God go to so much trouble to give you so much information and then say you can't know? No, we actually can tell how close we are. I can't tell you the date, but I can tell you the season, and I got 50 signs to show you that we're in the season. So let's pick up what happened around Israel this last week. Many things keep happening that point to his return. Specifically, we talk about Benjamin Netanyahu got reelected as prime minister. When we shot last week, it was still tied between he and Gantz. It was too close to call. So probably the thing that happened the most of all that was dramatic on the northern part of Israel, you know, you have Syria and you have Lebanon, and you have Hezbollah inside of Lebanon getting missile equipment from Iran through Syria into Lebanon. Well, Israel has to keep stopping those convoys to the point that this last weekend, Israel did another air attack in Massif. Now, it was such an attack on, that's the scientific studies place for actually it's Iran in Syria. You had missile production facilities destroyed right there. You even had scientists from Belarus, scientists from North Korea that are there retrofitting all those missiles that keep coming down there with specific guidance systems that are more precise. So Israel just can't allow that to happen, and went in and took that out. There was another attack up by Aleppo right after that. So you have several different attacks. Now, this is what we talked about a few weeks ago. Russia threatened Israel if they did that again, that Russia would retaliate and fire missiles into central Israel. Well, remember, one happened. It hit Mount Carmel, and the Israeli media said, well, it was an errant missile. And Russia said, no, it wasn't an errant missile. We purposely fired that as a warning to you. This is about the fifth attack inside of Syria that Israel's had to do with Russia not doing anything. I love that President Trump warned Iran and Russia that America would form an umbrella along with Israeli airplanes just to keep the Israeli airplanes safe. Pretty wild. You even have the F-35 got deployed to the United Arab Emirates this last week. Now, that's such a radical airplane that the S-300 and S-400 missile systems can't detect it. These are the first airplanes of F-35s deployed in the Middle East, except for what Israel has. Israel's got quite a few, and they're almost going to have two squadrons of them coming pretty soon. So the F-35 is kind of a deal breaker there. So lots happening there. You have a new finding of natural gas off the shore of Israel. It's a huge deal. Now, these are some of the ones that keep happening. The anti-Semitism stuff keeps ratcheting up. You even have University of North Carolina. You have Duke having anti-Semitism marches and speeches. Too crazy. They said in France there's so much anti-Semitism against Christians and Jews, and the police are saying nothing against it. It's kind of bizarre. I was a little freaked out by what was said by the Vatican this last week. The Vatican said soon the world will have no Western culture and it'll all be Islamic. And, you know, the Pope came out saying, hey, Christianity needs to blend with Islam. Well, that's not going to happen, but these are things that you can see pointing to the tribulation and pointing to the Antichrist trying to make one world religion and one monetary system. The Pope said a couple of years ago, we're ready for one monetary system, one world religion, and one world authority. I believe things are pushing toward that will point to the coming of the Lord. So many more things keep happening in Israel. You had some activity on the Temple Mount. You had a fire close to where the Dome of the Rock is. It was in one of the mosques. So they put it out quickly. Sad to see what happened at Notre Dame the last couple of days. It's a good thing they got it stopped when they did. But the rise of anti-Semitism is what I can't go into so much detail about because there's so many of them. But crazy. Even our congresswoman, you know, from Minnesota said we're going to cut aid to Israel. The other congresswoman that's a little crazy, the Democratic lady, she said 9/11, something happened. It wasn't really that bad. Downplayed what happened with 9/11 and wouldn't even call out what really happened. So you're hearing this weird verbiage that's trying to make Islam look good and Christianity bad. I do like that there was an area in Syria that used to have ISIS had a big hold that Islam, the Muslims were converting to Christianity completely all over that village. So good things are happening in the midst of all this bad stuff. So, for the church, there is no bad news. I heard one guy say, Joe, if you talk about the coming of the Lord, you'll just get everybody's hopes up. I said, duh, that's exactly right. It's the hope that purifies us even as we're pure. So let's look at the signs, though. The Bible is very, very, very specific. These are inarguable. Number one, Israel made a nation, 1948. Jerusalem won back in 1967. Jesus said the generation that sees those two events will not pass away till all is fulfilled. So in our lifetime, those have happened. But you got many more. We talk about it every week. You got the Hebrew language restored because God said, this is what I'll do right for the coming of the Lord. You have the Ethiopian Jews that were brought back in one day, 18,000 airlifted. You got the fertility of the land of Israel. You got the Temple Mount Institute. They're ready to start having sacrifices. This last year, they were able to have a sacrifice on the edge of the Temple Mount. Didn't get arrested. Last year, they got arrested. Amazing. Many more things. You got the revival of the Roman Empire. You have the Capitol building in Strasbourg, France that looks identical to the Tower of Babel. The woman from the book of Revelation is on their money. It's crazy. So you have that. You got all these things happening. But you go beyond that till you have men will be lovers themselves who have selfie sticks. You got Ezekiel prophesied there'd be fish in the Dead Sea. There's fish in the Dead Sea. Pretty wild. I like, probably my favorite is Aerosmith Steven Tyler got saved, because when you start seeing that, the Lord's about to come back. Pretty crazy, all these things happening. But even beyond that, you got nature getting ready. You have 172 different species of predatory birds that started showing up in the land of Israel. You got the cleanup crew there because after the Ezekiel 38 war, God calls on the fowl of the air to clean the land up. 7 years later at the Battle of Armageddon, he calls on the fowl of the air again. So you have that. You have the signals. Amazing. You have the signals of the coming of the Lord. You have blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles. It is amazing to have them happening like that 4 in a row. NASA called it a tetrad. When's the last time you had 4 in a row on Passover and Tabernacles? 1967 when Jerusalem was won back. 1948 when Israel was made a nation. 1492 when the Jews were kicked out of Spain at the Edict of Expulsion. Pretty remarkable to have that. And then you have the Bethlehem star this last year, first time in 2,000 years. I like that the constellation at the birth of Jesus was Virgo. This last year the constellation was Leo. He's the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Amazing. So you have signs, you got signals. You have more. You had Mercury do fly by the sun, happens 5 times in a century. The sun went directly down over the Temple Mount. The planets formed a sickle. The moon formed a sickle. And the Orion changed his instrument to hammer. So you had hammer and sickle on the same day. That's Russia's symbol. So all these things are pointing to, and the heavens are screaming, Jesus is about to come back. You can sense it on the inside of your heart. These signs are for the unbeliever, but the Lord's so sweet and so kind, he wants everybody to have a heads up. That's what he said. When you see these things, lift up your head, for your redemption is drawing nigh. So we talk about this for not escape theology. It's a go for it theology. You see the finish line, you run faster. So what do? Help your local church, help your local pastor, get the message out. This is it. Jesus is coming so soon. I hear people say, we've been hearing that all of our lives. You've been hearing that all your lives because Jesus is coming. No other generation has had all the signs that we've had ever. We're very, very, very blessed. We'll come back next week. We'll pick up with where we were. We have that new series we wanted to tell you about again, the End Time series in great detail, because we have one that's 3 CDs, but then we have this next one that's 10 CDs. So super detailed on the second coming, the rapture, the tribulation period. I don't get a chance to preach on the tribulation that much, but get into a little more detail about that. So if you want to order that, and my dog just gave us a great amen to order that. So he said, go for it. England said, get that series. So we sure appreciate you watching this week. Have a blessed, awesome week. And we'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the EDU at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.
One love to overshadow.